Hey everyone, welcome. I'm so excited because today we're talking about how to get reliable homeschool advice. You guys really were going to talk about advice in general, but I mean, homeschooling advice is there's so much out there and it's so crazy. How do you know what's right for you? That is the real question. And so we're going to talk about that today, and we're going to dig into some questions that you can ask yourself as to really think about where's this coming from, and does it really apply to me, or is it something that I can really take to heart and really try out? Okay. So I'm really excited about that because, man, there's lots of advice out there, especially with social media. Everybody's got an opinion about something. And it's something to where you have to think about, like, okay, it can be really overwhelming just to go all over, all over the place and say, I need this help and I need that help and I need that help. And you get 20,000 answers that may or may not apply to you and may or may not be from someone who knows what they're talking about. Okay. So, and this, you guys, is something that I really feel strongly about because not only have I dedicated myself to really helping families with homeschooling advice, but also it's something where I feel like this is a community where there's a lot of just really well-intended people who are just sharing what works for them. And that's great, but it doesn't necessarily take into account what's best for you. And that causes a lot of overwhelm. That's where I talk to parents every single day that are super overwhelmed at all the stuff that's out there and everything that's going on. And then I talk to parents that are just like, oh my gosh, I don't even know where to start. Like somebody's unschooling over here. Somebody's, doing high school classes over there. Somebody's doing all this stuff. And how do I know what's best for me? Especially the new homeschool parents. If you're a new homeschool parent and you're like, I don't even know how to get started. Every single day I see posts like that in social media. And I'm wanting advice on how to get started. And what really is incredible is that there's all this, like, okay, well, first you need to do this, and first you need to do that, and then you do this, and then you do that. And it's like, that may not be the place that these people need to start from, or you need to start from. So I really want to give you a few things to think about that you can evaluate the responses that you get from all different sources. I mean, hello, they come from all different sources, friends, family, sometimes, not just social media, but all over the place, right? So I want to give you some really good determiners, some ways to evaluate that, okay? So, and what that does is it prevents you from wasting a lot of time. A lot of parents, they just try different things. Okay, well, my friend said this, so I did that, you guys. I'm going to talk about that in a minute, but I did that. My friend said this, so let's try that. And then, this person's doing this, or I heard about this, and so that's what I'm going to try. And it doesn't really take into account where your needs are, and it ends up being wasted money, wasted frustration and stress, because now you've lowered love of learning because everybody's miserable and you have to try something else. Okay, let's try something else. Let's try something else. That's another thing I hear a lot on social media is, we tried this, we tried that, we tried this, and we're still not in our homeschool groove, or we're still not finding the joy and the love of learning that we should. And I'm really frustrated, or I'm very overwhelmed. I'm about to give up. I hear that so many times from so many parents. I'm about to give up. Don't give up. Just let's get some good information. Let's get some good resources, okay? And if that sounds like you, if you're overwhelmed, you're frustrated, you've been trying different things and it's not working out, or you've tried different things and a little bit worked out, but there's still a lot that needs to be worked out, let's talk. Let's chat, message me, book a homeschool confidence call with me. You guys, it doesn't cost anything to have that first initial call, because I really want you to get that great information. I want to just know about you. And that's one of the things I'm going to tell you about in a second, about those questions to ask yourself. Okay. But let's chat really seriously. I am not here to say that I am the end of all homeschool advice for sure, but I definitely know that I am on a mission to help homeschool families get started in a way that's best for them. So if that's not me, cool. I'll direct you to somebody else, but I want you to not be overwhelmed. I know how that feels, right? So let's talk about some of those questions now. Are you ready to talk about some of those questions? You hopefully have already seen this in our newsletter, in the emails that have come out this week, because I put some of those questions in there. But I'm going to share with you a little bit more today and expand on that a little bit more. So, the first thing you want to ask yourself is you want to think about, does this person have fruit on the tree? Does this person have fruit on the tree? Does this person know what they're talking about? Okay. And yeah, you know what? Everybody doesn't, nobody knows everything, right? I don't know everything, and there's nobody that knows everything. But does this person have experience in what they're saying? And does this person have experience with lots of different areas in homeschooling to be able to give advice fruitfully? Because you can tell on social media, and I know you guys have read this, you can tell the comments of the parents who've been down the road a ways and know what they're talking about. Because a lot of times they say things like, hey, you know what? Your situation is going to be different. You got to find out what works for you. You got to find it, right? And it's a little bit more open than the people who are like, well, we just use IXL, we use a Becca, that kind of stuff is like, okay, that's great, but we just got started too, and we use Power School, whatever the case, right? That's not fruit on the tree. If you're trying to get started and they just got started too, that's great for them. But is that fruit on the tree from people who are further down the road, right? Fruit on the tree. I always say fruit check. Whatever we're doing, and I teach that to my son, whenever we're taking advice from anybody about anything, do they have fruit on the tree? There are people in my life who I take certain advice from and don't take certain advice about other things because they have fruit on the tree in one area, but not in this area. There's people I've paid for coaching that I take advice about one thing, and the same people I don't take advice about other things. Do you see what I'm saying? Now, we want it to be the most obviously fruit on the tree possible, right? So, but ask yourself that. That's a good question always to ask. And if you know my earlier posts from this week and my emails, you know that we're going to talk about this a little bit more, but I saw a person who I know doesn't homeschool post a very official looking something about how to get started homeschooling in a comment for someone who was looking for homeschool advice. Fruit check. Fruit check. This person does not homeschool. Oh my gosh. And so if you looked into this person, you would know that they didn't homeschool. So that's what I'm saying. Fruit check, right? Okay. So just please take a little thought and just say, does this person have fruit on the tree? And then number 2, ask yourself, is this person interested in my success? Because here's the thing, and here's what I mean about this. There's so many places on Facebook where somebody's asking, what's a good curriculum for a 3rd grader? What's a good, way to get started? And what's a good, curriculum for math curriculum for a 4th grader? Or what's a good high school curriculum? There's so much involved in all of those questions, right? If somebody's just posting, oh, well, this is a good curriculum, are they interested in my success? They may want my success by just saying, hey, here's an option, and that's fabulous. But are they truly interested in my long-term success personally? Ask yourself that question, okay? I know it's a hard distinction to make, but just having all of these comments about this is a good curriculum, this is a good curriculum, this is a good curriculum, or homeschool setups. What kind of homeschool setup should I have in my house? Oh, we got this, we got that, Are they interested in my long-term success? That's something question to ask yourself, okay? Number 3, how do you guys feel about these questions? Put in the comments, how do you guys feel about these questions? How do you guys feeling about does this make sense to you? I've done this for years, people, about looking online and trying to really help people with with the right advice and myself too, and I'm trying to help my son. These are the questions that I ask myself when I'm looking for advice about anything, about business, about marriage, about parenting, about all kinds of things. I'm asking these questions, right? About nutrition and health. So, number 3, does the person ask more questions to clarify or find out more? Okay, so does the person ask more questions to clarify and find out more? You'll see in a lot of the social posts, the comments from more veteran people are typically asking questions like, well, does your son or daughter blah blah blah, or have you tried this, or have you, what is your situation of this, or it depends on if you da da da, right? Are they asking more questions about your situation, your kid's background, your family, dynamic, the mental history, the academic history, your goals, all of those things. Because all of that matters if you're taking advice from somebody, right? Because you can't, you cannot ask a question like, what's a good math curriculum for a high schooler? And get a bunch of answers and just that's the right answer for you. Like there's so much that goes into the answer to that question. I did a whole podcast, a whole live episode on what to do before choosing curriculum, and that just scratches the surface of it. There's so much, you guys, in my Inspiring Lifelong Learning program. Choosing curriculum comes down the road. Before we have to put all these things into place, and we have to understand a lot about what's going on first, and what our beliefs are, what our situations are, what our end goals are before we pick curriculum. Does that make sense? I hope this is making sense to you. I hope you're not getting overwhelmed. I hope this is clarifying for you how to find good information. Asking questions and asking clarifying questions is very, very important. And if you get on a call with me, the first call we have, I'm going to ask so many questions. Even the second call, I'm going to ask so many questions. I was just on a call with a fabulous couple, and I asked them so many questions. And that is a thing. We have to get to know what's going on, what your goals are, what the situation is, what it's been in the past, and really to get to what we can recommend. We have to know those things, okay? So it's important to find out if is this person asking me questions, right? The last one I'm going to talk about today, and then I'm going to share a little bit more about the context of this whole thing, and really about how to put it into practice, okay? Is number 4, does the advice take into account all of those extra things that I was just talking about? Okay. So not only does the person ask more questions, number 3, and does the advice take into account all of those things? Right? So I use IXL, I use EIW, I use or it's I always get it backwards, EIW. Anyways, whatever the case, the writing curriculum, you know what I mean. But I use Singapore math. I use this. I use Dr. Dennison, or Dennison math. I used, whatever the case. Does it take into account all of those background things that I just talked about? Does the advice take into account? Okay. If it doesn't, it's just a suggestion that perhaps can narrow the field for you, because oh my gosh, right? If you search for homeschool curriculum, you could scroll for days on homeschool curriculum, and they all sound amazing, and they all sound fabulous, and the thing that you need, right? But how do you narrow the field? Well, sometimes that can narrow the field for you. What's worked for others? That's helpful. Social media is great for that, right? And all of these people are very well intending. Don't get me wrong. I know that they're very well intending and it's totally fine to help you narrow the field. Is it something that you might go out and get right away and you know it's going to work for you? No, because you got to do a little bit more legwork. You got to do actually a lot of bit more legwork for those kinds of things. But we did that initially. I did that when I first started homeschooling, you guys. I took whatever my friend was doing and I was like, okay, she's doing that with her kids. So let me order that and let's do that. And then I found out that didn't work for us because it was not the right fit at all. It was way too rigid. It was way too it was overwhelming for a little kid. And I was like, I get all this cuz I'm a teacher and I understand all that. But and I like this and I like this part about it, but we ended up using it in a different way. Or I actually, okay, now she's using this and this for that. So we checked this out and then somebody else got this little math scale that can help us with this and this and this. I bought that. It's right up there. I'm looking at it right now and it's hardly been used. I mean, I think my son played with it like twice. And there will be some of that. Okay, let's just get real. There's going to be some trial and error no matter what you do, but you can really limit that by getting the right questions asked and making sure the person has fruit on the tree, right? Because when my friend and I were starting, we were both starting. We're in the same place. She was like 4 months down the road than me, or maybe like a year down the road from me. Probably not even that. That we were both in the same place. And so, me taking that advice, I didn't know if that was going to work for me, but it was better than the no advice I had. I got that. But it ended up in us trying a lot of things and ending up in a lot of frustration, wasting money and wasting time. And when frustration happens and stress happens, what happens to love of learning, you guys? You know this lowers love of learning. We don't want that. We want a high level of love of learning. So we want to limit the amount of frustration, the stress, and we want to limit the time wasted, right? Then the money wasted for sure, right? So that's something that's very normal for people to do, but it doesn't have to be that way if you're getting it from a reliable source, okay? Like I said, it has its value in just narrowing the field for you and giving you some place to start looking, right? Okay, I get that, right? One thing social's also very good at is encouragement and support. Absolutely 100% very good at that. Okay. But it's not very good at individualizing and knowing what's the best fit for you. It just isn't, right? I talk with parents every single day that have been, oh, I've tried this, I've tried that, I've been down this, I'm super overwhelmed, I'm getting started, we're starting to research, but oh my gosh, we seriously don't know. Like, there's so much out there. In fact, the mom I was just talking to, the parents I was just talking to, she said, "Well, yeah, my friend she's been unschooling for like a really long time, and gosh, that their results right now aren't what I want for my kids." And I was like, yeah. And they've been unschooling for a while. And they're like, yeah, I feel kind of lost doing this. This isn't the right fit for us. And so and now she feels like she's wasted some time and perhaps gotten, further down the time path than she wanted to. So, I see that a lot. I see that a lot. But and if it sounds like you, again, let's talk. Let's talk. I am not the end all of homeschooling information. Like I said, there are plenty of people that I learn from every single day that are fabulous in their own areas. And there are plenty of people that have associations, your state association. They are fabulous for directing you to different resources. Again, you have to make sure they're asking you the right questions. They can give you great legal advice. They can give you what's required in your state. They can give you lots of options. And sometimes things like, some different homeschool groups, they can help you narrow things down. It's really great for that. Okay. So that is wonderful. But if you need, like, you're like, man, I don't want to waste time with all this stuff. And I need to talk to somebody and just get down like a good starting point and really really dig into what is good for me. Let's talk, you guys, because one of the things that I do when I talk to parents is that I really ask questions that dig deeper than you thought you needed to go, because I've been down that road longer. I understand a perspective from a public school perspective, from a box checking perspective, and from a a homeschooling perspective. And so I really ask a lot of questions, and I know a lot about a lot of the different things in homeschooling, that the different curriculums, the different routines, the different schedules, because I've been working with families for so long, and because I've been also trying a lot of things myself over the years. I can ask questions that dig a little deeper. In fact, we just did that with the family that I just talked to. It was like, "Oh, I asked a lot of questions about one specific thing that their daughter was doing," and they were like, "Oh, okay." And I said, "I'm asking these for a reason, because that curriculum tends to be like this, and this, you're telling me this is what you want, and that may not line up." And she hadn't even thought about that before. So sometimes it's really good to get that questioning down from somebody who can ask just more questions. I mean, what's it going to hurt? You get a different perspective, right? And so in the end, there's lots of good advice out there, but I am about asking the questions and making sure that you get a different perspective. And even if I'm not the right person for you, I'll direct you to somebody else. No problem. Why? It's not a good fit for everybody, for sure. We all have each other's goals in mind. And if our goals don't align, then no problem, right? But that's why I created the Raising Leaders Roadmap, was to individualize it for the family. Individualize it for your specific family, because the Raising Leaders Roadmap, although it does have strategies and thinking that and steps involved, those steps are applied in a different way through mentoring for your family. Does that make sense? So when you're looking for advice, I want you to ask these questions. I'm going to go through them real quick. So, fruit on the tree. Ask about fruit on the tree. Does this person have my success in mind? Are they really invested in my success? Does the person ask more questions to clarify and really dig in deep? And then does the advice take into account all the things, the deep things that I talked about before, all the background and everything? Okay. Think about that when you're going out to get advice. It's really, really easy to just be very overwhelmed. But if you get to a source that really has your interest in mind, that's got fruit on the tree, gosh, really, things can open up and perspectives can open. You can really make a lot of homeschool experience and a journey that's beautiful and fun and has the exact goals, your end goals of the people you're trying to raise in mind. You guys just go out there and really, really gather information with a purpose and call me, contact me. That's what I'm here for. Bounce ideas off of, right? That's what I love to do. So, you guys, I'm super excited about this. I know that this is going to help you just think about where things are coming from. And I know that it's going to help you further down the road as you're keeping going on your homeschool journey. I'm always here for you. I'm always believing in you. And I always know that you've got this. So, you guys, I will talk to you next week. And by the way, keep a little date on your calendar for January 23rd. The Homeschool Like a Boss workshop is coming up, and I want you to make sure that you register for that as soon as registration opens this coming Monday, the 13th. Okay? Keep that in mind. I'm super excited to see you in that workshop, and you can ask questions there. We're going to have a Q&A in there where you can ask your questions. Okay? You guys, I do want you to also, as we wrap up here, I want to keep in your hearts and in your minds and in your prayers, I want you to keep Southern California. I'm out here in Northern California. Keep Southern California in your prayers right now, all the fires that are happening out there. And we have a lot of families that we work with, and we know my husband's from Southern California. It's just, there's a lot of heartbreak happening out there, a lot of a lot of hard times. So just keep them in your prayers. I know you are because you are all amazing. And I will talk to you again next week. Bye bye.